Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenna and I'm Empress of Horror. So this is my first movie review and I'm so excited to get started. So the film I'm going to be talking about today is Haunt. Haunt was released in 2019 and it's a Shudder original. It was written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who are the creators of A Quiet Place. Although this film is very different to A Quiet Place and has a completely different vibe. Eli Roth is also a producer in this film, and I definitely feel like you can feel his influence at certain parts in this movie. It's starring Katie Stevens, and this film scored really respectfully a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, personally, I don't really go by critic scores, purely just because there's films that I love that have really low scores, there's films that I really don't like that have really high scores, so I don't really base films off of that, but I thought I would just let you guys know anyway. So what I thought I would do for my movie reviews is firstly start off by talking about the plot of the movie and chat a little bit about it, and then I'll go into the spoiler section where I'll discuss the film a little bit more in depth and talk about aspects that I liked and aspects that I didn't like. So this film follows a group of college students on Halloween night who decide they want to go and find a haunted house attraction. They jump in their car and head into town, but along the way they find themselves up this creepy dirt road and this weird sign pops up saying haunted house. Of course they decide that there is nothing weird about this and it seems completely legit and not shady at all, so they give away all their phones and belongings to this creepy clown and head into a horror house. It's not long before the evening turns deadly. So I have to say, at first I really wasn't sold on this film. The first 10 minutes really just didn't do anything for me. I wasn't very invested in the characters. I didn't really care that much about the storylines they were setting up. And I was kind of just like, ugh, is this just going to be another run-of-the-mill teen scream slasher films? And it is. But it's really good. It is a story that has been rehashed and recycled time and time again, but I really have to say that I think Scott Beck and Brian Wood did a really good job with this film. They told it in a different way, they made it fresh and new, and they did a good job. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the spoiler section of this film, so if you haven't seen it and you would like to see it, please stop this video now and go watch it and then come back. So firstly, I want to start off by talking about the aspects of this movie that I enjoyed. The main one for me being the setting of this film. I really like that they set this in a haunted house attraction. Mainly because I really enjoy haunted house attractions, but also I felt like it added an extra layer of anxiety to this movie. Obviously, when you're watching a horror film, you're expecting scary things to happen. You're expecting bad things to happen to the characters. But watching this, knowing that the characters are also expecting scary things, maybe not deadly things, but they're expecting scary things to happen, and having that sort of overseeing knowledge of their true fate and waiting for it to happen it's just quite tense. They did it in a really clever way. There's a part of the movie when they first enter the haunted house and they get into this room and there's this witch and she has the creepiest mask on and she drills out this body bag, unzips it, and there's a girl with her hands cable tied, and the witch stabs her with this hot rods iron thing, and they're all just like, yay, that was great, that was such a good trick. But you, because you know you're watching this horror film, you know that it's real and it sets the tone so quickly. I also just felt like from that point onwards, them being in the house, you were extra paranoid because you knew that something terrible could happen to these characters at any point, and you were just kind of waiting, nail biting for the moment that the scare is actually genuine and they're actually getting murdered. I also liked that the score in this movie was very subtle. It didn't scream at you. I don't like when horror films have really loud and intense and scary music, because I feel like that's the film telling you, oh, by the way, you should be scared right now. And I feel like films, if they're good, they should do that themselves without needing music to be like, this is the part where you should be afraid. And the score in this movie It was really subtle and I felt like it added to the scenes instead of overpowering them. Another thing I really liked about this film was the villains. I thought they were really effective. They were spooky, they were super creepy. Obviously when you're watching the film, they are initially just supposed to be workers at a haunted house attraction. Obviously you know that they're more than that, and that just adds an extra creepy element to it. I loved their masks. They had these really classic Halloween, like old school masks on, which were super creepy, along with these other big long spooky robe type costumes. And obviously once the masks came off, they were even creepier. They had these weird, scary, demonic body modification faces, like with implants, and one of them was supposed to have horns, and he had loads of tattoos all over their faces, and they just looked like real life Slipknot masks, which I loved. I also found the gore elements of this film were fantastic. I really enjoyed all of the kills. There were some quite inventive and creative ways of killing in this movie. There were lots of head trauma, there were faces getting peeled off, there was pitchforks through the body. There was one scene where she steps on a nail and it goes right through her foot, and it's just like, ugh. And then there's another scene where she falls, I think it's the same one actually, she falls on this glue floor and has to peel her hands off and all of her skin comes off. It's really gross and really great. I just thought they did well with that, and I also feel like that's kind of where Eli Roth's influence came in, potentially. But yeah, I'm a gore fan, so this was good for me. I also just thought that the haunted house in general was fantastic. It was really well designed, it looked really creepy and really fun, and if this was a haunted house in real life separate to the movie where there weren't people genuinely trying to murder you, I would totally go. It looked great. All the rooms were so creative and really imaginative. There was a room where it was almost set like a park. There was grass, there were trees, and there was a guy chasing you with a chainsaw. It was fantastic. There was also a creepy doll room that was giving me like ghost kind of Annabelle vibes. There was a creepy bed and wallpaper that you had to peel back. Obviously they've taken influence from other real life haunted house attractions, but I just thought it looked really fun. I would go if there was guaranteed no murder. I would go. So now let's talk about the aspects of the film that I didn't love. So firstly, for me, I just didn't really feel very invested in any of the characters. And that kind of goes to what I was saying in the beginning of this movie, that the first 10 minutes didn't really sell me. We had our main protagonist, Katie, I think her name was Harper in the film. I just wasn't sold on her story. You know, she was having a hard time with her boyfriend, he was kind of abusive, and she'd also had some childhood trauma, and maybe that is the aspect of this movie that I did feel played into the kind of recycled storyline aspect to me. I just didn't really care very much about them. Towards the end of the film, I was rooting for her. She does kind of become less annoying, and I was kind of on her side towards the end, but I didn't really care about any of them. And in horror movies, I kind of like to have someone that I'm rooting for. Another thing that I feel they could have maybe done a little bit better is the background of the villains. I feel like the villains were so interesting, and I was so intrigued by their appearance. You know, when the masks came off and they had all of these demonic, scary faces, I would love to have known more about that. Like, why did they have scary faces? Why did they just decide to build a haunted house attraction and start killing teenagers? I'd maybe like to have known a little bit more about them in the first part of the movie. There were also small parts of this film that kind of annoyed me, and they are very trivial things, but nevertheless they kind of bugged me. So there's a scene where shit starts happening, things are getting a bit heated, and one of the guys takes the key for the lockbox and decides to go and try and find someone to get help and get them out of the haunted house. He takes this key. He's a guy. He's wearing jeans. There are so many pockets in jeans, and the jean pockets are deep. They're not like girls' jeans where you can hardly fit your hand in them. Deep pockets in jeans. He doesn't put he doesn't put the key in there. No, he holds it in his hand, walks through this bit, gets the fright and drops the key. I was so mad. I was just like, dude, really? Really? Another really trivial thing that happens in a lot of horror movies, but it always annoys me, is that when they're fighting off the bad guy, so they're aware that there are bad guys trying to kill them now, and they have a weapon, and they kill him, and then they just put down the weapon and are like, oh, well, we better go and try and find our way out. And it's like, why wouldn't you take it with you? Why wouldn't you take it with you? Just things like that. Small things, but it annoys me nonetheless. Lastly, I wasn't sold on the ending. I didn't love it. You know, the fact that they escaped is fine. That's fine. I don't mind having a final girl and a final guy too. It's okay. But just that she knew he was gonna be there, so she went to her mum's house. She made a glue trap and a bed of nails, just knowing that he was gonna come. But I just don't get that. Like, how did she know that he was gonna come at that exact time? What if her mum came in the house and her feet got glued in the trap and then she fell forward into this bed of nails? That wouldn't have been great, and her mum was the whole one in the movie that she was trying to save. I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. Okay, so overall, despite all of the parts at the end that I talked about that I didn't like there, I do actually think this is a really good film. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. It gave me some scares. I bought into it. Yeah, the storyline was okay. It was okay. And for the type of film that it was, I enjoyed it. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. It's not redefining the horror genre. It's definitely not trying to be anything other than what it is, which is a teen scream slasher movie. But I thought it was really well done, and I liked Scott Beck and Brian Wood's take on it. So I would score this film an 8 out of 10. I had been thinking like a 7.5, but no, I watched it again this morning and I like it. It was really good. I'm going to watch it again at Halloween. It's definitely going on my list of good horror films. So if you haven't seen this film, I would recommend watching it. It's definitely entertaining. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed my video. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions on this movie if you've seen it down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.